Hello everyone, welcome back for another video. In the last few weeks, lots and lots of you have been asking me in the comments, Julia, can you make a video about playing in the higher positions? So that is a topic I want to tackle with you tonight. What do I mean by the higher positions? By the higher positions, I mean fifth, sixth and seventh position. And there are a few aspects which we are going to look at in close detail. Firstly, how to build the correct arm and hand shape. Secondly, what should we be doing with our thumb? That's a question lots of you have been asking. And of course, as usual, I will be telling you all the do's and don'ts along the way. Before we get cracking on those higher positions, I just want to remind you that you can now work with me in real time by signing up to Julia's Cello Cafe, my new monthly live workshop. We had the first one last Sunday and it was so much fun. So head over to my website. It's really cheap. It costs £12 to sign up for a 75-minute session, and in that time you can ask me all the cello related questions you like. Fifth, sixth and seventh position are a bit of a funny beast really, because they lie in this really awkward place on the cello around this, what I call the hump of the instrument here, really the area bridging the gap between the neck positions and the thumb position. And of course, the thing that we have in the way here really is the shoulder of the instrument. So that is the first thing to negotiate. And of course, therefore, these positions are designed completely differently from the neck positions. And that difference is the first thing I want to examine a little bit. So, in the neck positions, our aim is very much to try and align in a pretty sort of perpendicular way, with our fourth finger here being at a right angle to the fingerboard. Now, of course, as you can see, once I get beyond fourth position, that is no longer really possible. That would be extremely awkward. So what do we do instead? We have got a completely different setup here. And of course, that starts with a completely different fingering pattern that does not involve the fourth finger, right? Because getting the fourth finger here, whilst there are very rare occasions where it's just more practicable to use it up there, by and large, we don't use it at all. So instead, we no longer have this, each finger representing a semitone. Instead, we have really got for each position 3 possible settings, and that is either with a semitone lying between the first and second finger, and a tone between second and third, or of course the tone the other way around, the tone being between 1 and 2, and the semitone between 2 and 3, or of course then we also have the wide variation where we've got a tone between 1 and 2 and between 2 and 3. So these are the 3 standard configurations that we can have in those positions. And as you could probably already spot here when I demonstrated it, the hand shape is now a completely different one. So I no longer have all 3 or 4 fingers here curled as I do down here. Instead, we have got 1 and 2 still curled, and 3 now has to straighten. Yeah, so you can see we are no longer in this shape, and the angle is no longer a right angle. Instead, it's much more kind of triangle that we are building here, right? So as you can see, so I'm now coming at the fingerboard sort of on the diagonal rather than like that. So that is the first thing that we have to be really aware of here, that it's just a completely different approach. So now let's first of all take a step back and see how we actually form this. First of all, before we worry about the hand too much, the arm shape correctly. Yeah, and that brings me to the first set of do's and don'ts, because the most common mistake people make with these positions is to sort of try and approach them from behind the cello with the elbow hanging down here somewhere. Now, it doesn't take a master's in physics to figure out that if you have your elbow down here, your center of gravity is going to be hanging all the way down here, which makes controlling the position nigh on impossible. So rather than approaching from behind, what I want you to try out, first of all, before we even sort of aim for specific notes, is really the arm out to the side, and I want you to fold in half and swoop in from the top. So we're not doing this from behind, we're coming out and in half, in from the top. And now comes the first, so that was a don't, now comes the first do. What you should be able to do and what you should be able to check is this. Is my arm nice and long and stable enough that I can rest my bow on it? If you can rest the bow on it, it's a pretty good indicator that you're nice and balanced. If it falls down the other way, it means you are a little bit too low. Yeah, so you don't want to ever be raising the shoulder. No raising the shoulder, just the elbow wants to be pointing out to the side. So as usual, the sort of law of physics that we are applying here is that of leverage, really. Yeah. So the longer you lever here, the less effort you will have to apply. So, and that is really the first thing we want to practice. Now, so we can, using open strings, we can do a bit of target practice here. So for fifth position, that would be second finger on the G to match with the open G string. Out in half, swoop in. And you can see how much clearance I have got here between my hand and the cello. So you never ever use the cello as an armrest. Yeah, so you want to be well out here, and you really want to feel that you're standing on the string, that you're very, very firm. Now you can use the same note for sixth position as well. First finger, or of course you can also use the A. So second finger. And for seventh position, you can use the first finger. Yeah, and you can use your C to C for seventh position. So especially in seventh position, you can see my arm is completely straight here. Can you see? So I can really park my bow here quite comfortably. And for as long as you are balanced, you will feel really secure in that position. And as you can see, I can also vibrate really happily up there. So that is really the basic rule of setting it up: out, in half, from the top. So you've got really, really good balance. Now, the big question that lots and lots of you have been asking: what should I be doing with my thumb? Where should I be placing my thumb? Well, the short answer is there isn't a set answer. Why? Because it depends entirely on the size of your hands and the size of your instrument. So That is really the crux of the matter. Now, having said that, I would say let's take each position in turn a little bit. I think for most people, if you have been following my channel for any length of time, I don't need to mention to you that when it comes to hand size, I am on the freakishly small end of the spectrum. So that means that whatever I can do with my thumb still behind the neck will be a doddle for everyone else, basically. So let's look at fifth position with first finger on F sharp. Now here I can very, very comfortably keep my thumb pretty much here in this sort of neck crease of the instrument, right? So that said, I don't, by keeping it there, I don't mean that it will be attached to the neck the whole time, especially when I'm going to the third finger. You will always need to do a bit of a sort of balance transfer, a bit of a balance shift, and for that I very often will come away with my thumb a little bit to just shift more weight onto that side of the hand. So it's still back here, but it's no longer attached. Now I think the sort of more borderline areas are the sixth and seventh position. So I'm going to try six now, especially the wide variety, the GAB. So here you can see now that I can, for that B, I can no longer comfortably keep my thumb behind the neck here. I simply don't have the extension in my hand. Interestingly enough, actually, I should probably have gotten my other much smaller cello out for comparison, because whilst on this instrument, which is very large, I'm having to bring my thumb up and out here. On the smaller one, I can probably just about keep it there. So that's exactly what I mean about it depends on the hand versus the instrument. Yeah, so what do I do instead here? As you can see, I have my thumb wide open and pulled backwards. So the one thing you never ever want is that sort of thing up here. Yeah, why? Because that is, well, it's really neither one nor the other. It's not behind, it's not that, and it's just very, very sort of unbalanced. Yeah, so instead why do I pull my thumb all the way back? Because it gives you a counterweight. So it's a shape almost akin to when you're playing sort of octave tremolos on the piano, yeah, when you're doing that. So by having a thumb out here, it just gives me that counterweight. So that's really what I use around sixth position. Now let's go up, and once we get to seventh position, there we really have a choice between either keeping the thumb behind, but in many cases it will already be more comfortable to bring, I'm now going to shift a little bit sideways so you can see, to bring the thumb up here like so. Yeah, so if I show you, so I can do that, but I would probably choose at this point to bring the thumb up. And I would say up until the second finger, I keep it, you can see I can keep it behind. From second to third, I just find it personally more stable to have it up here. But that is really something that you can experiment with. So as I said, the main thing is really it needs to be balanced. There is no hard and fast sort of one set rule for it, where it has to be. Some people with really long fingers might even in seventh position be able to keep the thumb, even if not behind, but sort of on the side here. But for a great many people at that point, it will simply be more comfortable to bring the thumb all the way up here. And another thing that I would say about that, it also depends a little bit on what you want to achieve vibrato wise, because the wide open shape sort of with that counterweight gives you a slightly different vibrato to thumb up and much more closed. So I'm going to show you. You see, that is with my thumb up. Versus now when I bring the thumb back. So that gives me a slightly wider amplitude, as you can see. Yeah? So, whereas if I want something narrower, I will probably bring the thumb up. So that is something to experiment with. As I said, there are really two options here. You know, either keeping it behind the neck, bringing it away from the neck, but stretched out, or then the third option in seventh position in particular, bringing the thumb up. What you don't want is the thumb sort of somewhere tucked under the hand here. That is an absolute no, because you are not going to be very well balanced, and the moment you're not very well balanced, you are going to have tuning issues. One last question I just also want to address, and that is when am I ready to start learning these positions? For myself, with my students, I have really got a pretty sort of strict guide with that, and that is that before I will teach those positions, I want them to really be absolutely solid in all the different neck positions, because otherwise you are really building on sand. Yeah, so I want for the neck position, everything from first, or should I say half position, all the way up to fourth position to be really, really solid. And also, and especially, I want the right hand to be really solid, because what tends to happen, the higher we go on the instrument, so the more really we have to be able to rely on the right hand. And I see in a lot of students always that once they go higher, the bow tends to initially become a little bit wobbly. So I want right hand sound production to be really solid before we venture into those positions. If you want to get started on the higher positions from scratch, one resource I really recommend, you know, I'm a great fan of these books, is a second volume of Rick Mooney's position pieces. Here, so this is really, really comprehensive, because it really tackles each position, 5, 6, and 7 in turn, in all its different variations that they come in. So that is really, I would say, the best sort of beginner resource that I would use, and that I certainly use all the time with my students. And then once you're a little bit more settled, there is also some really, really great material in Feuer's daily exercises. One that I would recommend in particular is number 16, which maybe we'll take apart in another video. So for now, I hope this has been helpful, and as usual, if you have any questions, please pop them into the comment section below, and I'm always happy to hear from you and answer. And don't forget to smash the like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already done so, and if you want to help me make more videos, you can now do so by buy me a coffee via the link below. Cheerio, thank you very much and see you soon.